Welcome to the series My Week in Trucking. This is for week number 50. Week number 50 ended December 10th, 2022. Let's talk about it coming up. After a weekend at home, I saddled up at 04:30 to roll out and get to Alma, Georgia. It's always nice to leave early in the morning. There's very little traffic. It's nice and easy to get out and get rolling. A nice early morning fuel stop and picked up some fresh coffee. This is a very small pilot. When you fill up here, you've got to figure out exactly how far you can pull up because that pull-up line is right at the road. Then you got to figure out how you're going to make your turn out of here. One thing I really love about working for Cheeseman is because we're delivering forklifts, parts, and things like that, we don't wait in the lines. Jump over there in the left line, went straight up. Look at this Hirschbach there, this Trans Am. You're going to see them still waiting when I get ready to leave here just a few minutes later. We're delivering something they want to receive. They want us in and out as quickly as possible. We're going to their maintenance department. They're going to get this thing off of me so I can get rolling. They brought me out a pallet jack. I climbed up into the trailer and grabbed hold of the product and drug it to the back so that it could get it off and get going. I don't want to wait around. If it means I have to help out, I'm going to help out. Now it's time to get rolling. Let's watch. You're going to see that same Trans Am and that same Hirschbach still sitting there waiting to get in. Hate it for them. I got places to go. Can't stick around. Got to get to the next stop, which is going to be in Pooler, Georgia. And it's not truck driving, it's trailer driving. What's the best way I can turn this trailer around and have it pointed right at that dock? Got to work that in there with all the obstacles that are sitting out here. Back it right up to that dock. They came out, took their item off with the forklift. It was time to roll. Pulled forward, got my doors closed, roll on. The next stop will be in Savannah. I really like being able to check in, go straight to a maintenance dock. Only problem is sometimes those maintenance docks aren't in the most convenient location. This particular maintenance dock is really close and pretty easy to get to, except the trucks like to stage right in front of this dock, which makes things a little more difficult to get in and out of there. Fortunately, they moved before it was time for me to get out of there, and I was able to roll on to the next stop, which will be in Rincon, Georgia. I'd never heard of Rincon, Georgia before. New towns. This would have been a quick in and out except for one thing. I arrived at lunchtime. That meant all the maintenance people were gone to lunch, so I had to wait for somebody from maintenance to return from lunch. And then I just drug the particular item they were getting to the back door, and they lifted it off with a forklift. There was absolutely no reason to wait for an open dock because I only had a single item. Like I said, I'm not above climbing up into that trailer and pulling what they need to the back door with a pallet jack, or in this case, I pulled it by hand. It was pretty light. Whatever it takes to get the job done and get it done a little bit quicker. This will be my last stop before I head for Greer, South Carolina. We have a terminal in Greer, South Carolina, and I still had one item on that trailer. That was the item that I could not deliver because the building at the address that I had went to wasn't constructed yet. It always helps if construction's finished before you try to deliver something there. Greer Terminal has one of those complicated inbound processes. You know, go through the gate, back into a dock, remember what dock you left it in. No big deal. I overnighted. In the morning I had a surprise. The trailer I needed is between that pole and that day cab. And there's a trailer across from me which will make turning nearly impossible. Now, I could have risked my safety bonus trying to get it out of there, or I could have played the not my job card and waited for the yard dog. No, I hooked onto it and moved it where it needed to go into a spot so that I could get my trailer out with less danger of hitting something. It's called doing what you got to do to get the job done. After all, you've got a tractor, why not move it? Now, I've still got a flatbed across from me, but I've got enough room between me and the flatbed that I'm able to get it out. I went all the way around the yard rather than try to make the turn onto the scale after having come off of there. The scale's kind of hard to hit straight on. Of course, I weigh every load before I take off just to be absolutely sure. And it's time to hit the road. I'm going from Greer, South Carolina to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, which is all the way down in Florida. The weather was nice, the roads were clear, everything was going well until it wasn't. Got to a place where the interstate was shut down for an accident investigation for about 4 hours. And that's why they make adverse conditions. I wasn't able to make it to my destination until morning, but that's fine. My delivery appointment wasn't until the next morning anyway. When looking for a place to park, it's always important to know your options. One of the options that we have is any Crown facility. Makes a good parking place for overnight. Fortunately for me, there was a Crown facility in Pompano Beach, Florida, which was only 7 miles from where I needed to make my delivery. Perfect place to do an overnight. I headed out nice and early in the morning because I want to make sure that I get there before the traffic gets bad, and the easier it is to find my location. I said, man, look, 3 beautiful docks. This is going to be easy. Backed into the dock. Everything looked like it was great. One problem, they don't rent that end of the building. Those are not their docks. So I had to go around to the side, and they used the neighbor's dock to unload. These are golf carts. Got over there to the side and had to figure out how I was going to manage to get in there. I've got to get in between that trash dumpster and that ramp, and I've got to be careful of these golf carts that are in front of me, which are going to make the road a little bit, and I can't block the road, so I'm going to have to end with my tractor turned at an angle so that the trucks going in and out of the facility behind there will be able to go without being stopped. It worked out in the end, but boy, you got to be tricky on these docks. I like this stuff when we have to really figure it out. I was delivering golf carts. These are like airport golf carts. Of course, whatever's tricky when you're going in is going to be just as tricky or even more tricky going out. Of course, moving the golf carts would have been a good option too, but that wasn't in the cards. That would have taken a while. Managed to get out, get the doors closed, get rolling. I'm deadheading all the way back to McDonough, Georgia. Yeah, it's a nice long road deadhead. A lot of times there's not a lot of freight coming out of Florida. I'm going to be going to the maintenance dock here, and there'll be a Crown Tech who's meeting me. The Crown Tech will load the forklifts, and I'll nail them down. We secure forklifts by nailing blocks to the floor so that they do not move. Now that all the forklifts were securely blocked to the floor, it was time to roll. Just cruising along, didn't have any issues leaving out of McDonough, but when I got to Vance, Alabama, I had a flat tire. Fortunately, I was able to get to a nearby TA. They fixed me up, got me rolling again, no big issues. On to Grand Prairie, Texas, which is the final destination for this particular load. At the gate, they assigned me dock door number 112. That's the far back side of this building. However, when I got there, I got a little surprised. There's no way I was getting this truck in there. So I went ahead and made an executive decision and decided to use dock number 110. Every once in a while, we have to do that. Then comes the fun part. Remember when you put those blocks in? Well, those blocks got to come back out. I have found that using a very large bar makes it a lot easier to get these blocks out and to get the nails out from the floor. You got to always remove those nails. You don't want to be tripping over them, and they make it a real pain to try to sweep. It always helps also if you use the forklift's lights to light up the subject while you're working. Wish I'd have thought of that earlier. There's only 3 lifts on here. Get these 3 lifts off real quickly. As soon as I can get all 3 lifts off, I can get out of here and head for Laredo, Texas. We go to Laredo quite frequently, and we'll tell you one important piece of information whenever you're picking up a trailer at Laredo. Make absolutely sure you got a couple extra O-rings in your pocket to put on the glad hands. Yeah, those glad hand rings for some reason all seem to disappear. It's also important to Catskill every load taken out of Laredo because most of them are bolt sealed. You'll have no idea that the weight is not correctly put in the trailer if you didn't weigh it first. In this particular case, I was ending my week doing a 34-hour reset on the road. We get paid $100 for doing a reset, and we can get a hotel if we want. I still had some things to set up in the truck, so I stayed in the truck. All right, taking a look at the logs, I had 3,160 dispatched miles, 3,475 logged miles, 3,481 odometer miles. That means there's going to be some carryover. And here is my unedited driver's settlement for the week. For the period ending the 50th week of the year. Run number 1 went from my home in Shadydale, Georgia and ended at the Greer Terminal. It had stops in Alma, Georgia, Pooler, Georgia, Port Wentworth, Georgia, Rincon, Georgia. It paid $428 for 570 miles or 75 cents a mile. The second run for the week began at the Greer Terminal and ended in Laredo, Texas. It had stops in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, McDonough, Georgia, and Grand Prairie, Texas. The load paid $1,800 for 2,589 miles, or 69.5 cents per mile. Zooming in on the earnings summary block, we see that I made $681 for empty miles, $1,327 for loaded miles, $79 for handling and securement, $140 for stop pay. That's a total of $2,228.96, 3,160 miles, or 70.5 cents per mile. 30% of my earnings came from empty miles, 60% from loaded miles, 4% from handling, and 6% from stop pay. These numbers are rounded. All right, taking a look at the days work / off time. The red days are the days I worked. Green days were the days that were off. As you can tell, the first week I worked 5 days, made $1,780. The second week I worked 5 days, made $1,920. The third week I worked 6 days, made $2,228. All right, this is where I share my final thoughts. Be sure to like, share, and follow this video because it helps other people find it. It helps with the algorithm somehow on YouTube, that voodoo that they do. This has been a heck of a journey for me in trucking. I did my first 12 months at Millis Transfer. Then I did 18 months at Cheeseman LLC. I left for 24 weeks to try out lease, first with Arter Express and then with Christensen Transportation. But because I left on good terms, I was able to ask if I could come back to Cheeseman, and they gladly accepted me, and I'm very happy about that. There are times that being a company driver makes sense. As a company driver, you're not responsible for the maintenance on the truck. You're not responsible for buying fuel. You're not responsible for finding loads. It's a lot easier, a lot less stressful. Can you make a lot more money as a lease operator? Probably. Can you make a lot more as an owner-operator? Probably. But you also have a risk of loss, and you have a lot more stress upon you. The grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, but it's still got to be mowed. Another thing I see a lot of on here is recruiting. Yes, I recruit people. I believe in referrals. I work to help refer people even to other companies that I don't work for. I sometimes send people to companies that I happen to know somebody who works at, and I know is a good company. Not everybody can come to work for Cheeseman. Some people don't live in the right area. Some people don't meet the qualifications. And some people don't want to handle the blocking. There are other companies that also pay 6 figures. They're out there. You can find them. You're not required to work for these horrible companies that aren't paying very much. It takes 2 things to find the good companies, and neither one of them involve whining on Facebook about how poorly you're paid. It takes research and networking. When you're looking for a company, look for a company that has good culture, that has good equipment, good home time, and good compensation. If you're only looking for the compensation, you're liable to find a situation that you don't like. And make sure that you're enjoying every day at work.